Mosaic, open source API and platform for multiple clouds. Usually, when you build a cloud application, you start by picking the cloud on which the application will run. This is necessary because in order to interact with the resources required by your application, you will have to use the programming interface provided by the cloud provider. However, this way your application becomes bound to that cloud. But what happens if later you will want to move the application to another cloud? How will you port it? Well, you will probably have to rewrite your application, or at least parts of it. Or maybe you will want to move to another cloud, just some components of your application. But will those components be able to communicate with those hosted in the first cloud? Probably not. Mosaic comes to solve these problems. Instead of building your application using the programming interface of a certain cloud provider, you will build it using the Mosaic API. This API does not impose restriction on the programming language or the programming paradigm. While at the moment we have a Java implementation of the API, others will be available soon. The API targets mainly web applications, like, for example, many social networking applications available today. Furthermore, instead of letting the cloud provider manage your application, you let Mosaic Platform do that. This way, you will have the same management services wherever you go, and you won't care if the cloud where you want to move your application does not provide all the nice management gadgets that you had in your previous one. Mosaic API is organized in several layers. Each of the layers are detailed later. Besides the API, which eases the access to the resources of the cloud, Mosaic comes also with some components which may ease the work of your developers. These are called core components. One such component is a HTTP gateway. We will now talk about the layers of the API. First, there is the driver API, which hides the implementation diversity of the cloud provider's programming interfaces or the native APIs. For each kind of resource provided by the clouds, there is a driver interface. This interface can be implemented in any programming language, irrespective of Mosaic API language. Currently, we have drivers for resources like key-value data source or message queue systems based on the IMQP protocol. The connection between the drivers and the connectors is ensured with the interoperability API, which resembles in concept RPC or Java RMI. This layer implements a communication protocol specific to the resource type and also ensures the independence from the programming language used by the driver. The connector API is used by your application to connect to the resource. Again, there is one connector for each resource. But unlike in the case of drivers, where we can have one driver for all programming languages supported by the Mosaic API, here we must have a connector for each resource type and for each programming language. Currently, we have Java connectors for resources like key-value data stores or message queue systems based on the IMQP protocol. At the highest level, you will build your application from cloudlets. These are similar to servlets in Java Enterprise application. From a software design point of view, there are your application components. Each cloudlet will be implemented using an event-based approach and thus will actually be a collection of event handlers or callback classes. You will have one callback handling events related to the cloudlet's lifecycle, and you will also have one for each resource it uses for each queue or key-value bucket. The cloudlets execute within a container, which is managed by the platform. This way, the platform will be able to scale up or down the number of instances of each cloudlet, ensuring your application will not fail to process your client's request. Let's see how easy it is to use Mosaic. To show how Mosaic works, we need some virtual machines. We have chosen to run 2 virtual machines on our private cloud. The cloud runs on Eucalyptus. These machines can be accessed using Elasticfox, an add-on of Firefox. Here we can see that we have 2 virtual machines. For each of these virtual machines, we can find out their public DNS. On each virtual machine, there is a controller which can be used to start or stop applications or to scale them. The controller has a web interface which can be accessed using your browser. The same interface can be accessed on both machines. The interface will list all applications that are started on the machines and can also be used to start new application. For example, I can start a RabbitMQ, which is an IMQP based system. So now you can see that I have started RabbitMQ. The same thing is shown on the other machine. So I have another RabbitMQ. I can also start a Riak key value store. Notice that I start the Riak using the interface on the other machine. However, they both are listed on both machines. To see on which machine the component actually runs, we can use the log. Here we can see that Riak started on our first machine. We can also start drivers for these two types of resources. To start a driver for Riak, we just set here key value as property. Now we also have a key value store started. Let's start a driver for the queuing system. For that, we will set here IMQP. So, as you can see, we have the drivers started. Okay, so now, once we have our drivers and our resources started, we can start also a cloudlet. The Java archive containing the binaries of the cloudlet should be available somewhere on the net, or there can be available locally on your machine. I have uploaded a Java archive on a machine. To start the cloudlet, I specified the path to the Java archive and also a configuration file of the cloudlet that I want to start. For example, I have a Hello World cloudlet in my archive, and it has a Hello Cloudlet properties configuration file. We see that the cloudlet is listed here. Let's see its output. We can see here the Hello World message listed. On the same machine, I have also set two other cloudlets. One sends a message to the other. The other gets the message and sends a request to a key value store, searching for a value with the key equal to the message that received from the other cloudlet. After the value is retrieved from the key value store, it is sent back to the original cloudlet. The cloudlets are in the same archive. One is called ping. We see here that ping has started. Let's see if it started on this machine. Okay, it seems that it started on the other machine, so we'll connect again to the other one. We see here messages sent by that cloudlet that we just started. Now let's create the other cloudlet, which is called Pong. It seems that Pong started on this machine. Try a slightly different application, a more real one. We have implemented something similar to search.twitter.com. For that, we have a few components. First of all, there is a HTTP gateway, which will take HTTP requests and translate to them in messages that are put in a queue. So we have started the HTTP gateway. We can find out what is the endpoint of that gateway. So we can see here what is the private address of the gateway. Now, the public address of the gateway can be obtained by replacing priv with pub. We see here that we have no actual application that responds to requests, but we'll start one soon. So, another component of our Search Twitter-like application is the front end. We started, and now we reload the gateway. And we see the web interface of our application. Next, we started Fetcher, which gets messages from Twitter and indexes them locally. And furthermore, we need also an indexer, which is another component of our application. The indexer will find out what tweets are new and will print them in our web interface. So let's see how the application works. For example, we search for tweets with tag cloud. We can see here what has been posted lately. We can also search for another tag, let's say Harry Potter. Now we see tweets for Harry Potter. Whenever there will be a new tweet, it will be posted here. Now, let's scale our application. For example, let's add another fetcher. We search here for the fetcher, we find it here, and we can clone it from our web interface. We can see now that we have one fetcher here and one here. Look back in our application and see how it works. We can also clone our indexers. We search for the indexer and then we clone it. We now have two indexers.